Indian motorcycles, from glory to decline and unexpected comeback. The history of Indian motorcycles. Indian motorcycle story began in 1897 when George M. Hendy founded the Hendy Manufacturing Company. Initially, the company made bikes under the Silver King and Silver Queen brands. However, in 1898, they adopted the name Indian because it was more recognizable, especially in international markets. Oscar Hedstrom, a skilled engineer and former bicycle racer, joined the company in 1900, and together with Hendy, they set out to create the world's first Indian motorcycle. By 1901, Hedstrom completed the first Indian motorcycle prototype in Middletown, Connecticut. This motorcycle featured a single-cylinder engine and was introduced to the public on June 1, 1901, in Springfield, Massachusetts. It wasn't long before the company began mass-producing their motorcycles. In 1902, the first Indian motorcycles went on sale, and by 1903, Hedstrom set a world speed record of 56 miles per hour on an Indian. Which part of Indian motorcycles history surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. The peak years and popularity. Indian's real rise began with its racing success. In 1903, Hedstrom set a world speed record of 56 miles per hour, which showcased the power and reliability of Indian motorcycles. By 1905, the company introduced its first V-twin factory racer, a major milestone in motorcycle design. As the years passed, Indian's popularity soared. During 1913, they were producing over 32,000 motorcycles annually, a peak production number for the brand. The motorcycles were famous for their performance, style, and iconic deep red color that became their signature. Their speed and durability made them champions on the racetrack, setting records nationwide. A defining moment came in 1911 when Indian motorcycles swept the Isle of Man TT, claiming first, second, and third places, proof of their superior engineering and design. One of the company's top riders, Irwin Cannonball Baker, set a new cross-country record in 1914 by riding an Indian motorcycle from San Diego to New York in just 11 days, 12 hours, and 10 minutes. This feat proved Indian's reputation for durability and speed. Indian's engineering continued to improve, and in 1916, they introduced the Power Plus engine, a V-twin that was quieter and more powerful than earlier models, with a top speed of 60 miles per hour. The Power Plus was a huge hit among both everyday riders and racing enthusiasts, and stayed in production until 1924. Indian's competitive edge was clear, as it repeatedly dominated races, and Indian riders took the top spots. However, things took a turn in the early 20th century, with the departure of Oscar Hedstrom in 1913 and George Hendy's resignation in 1916. The company began to face challenges. The War Era. As World War I approached, the United States entered the conflict in 1917, and Indian motorcycles had to become a key player in supporting the military. During this time, Indian sold most of its popular Power Plus models to the US government. This was a significant blow to Indian's dealer network, as the motorcycles were now largely being sent to the military, leaving the civilian market with little supply. This loss of inventory caused a huge drop in domestic sales, and many of Indian's loyal dealers switched to rival companies like Harley-Davidson. And that marked the turning point, from which the company never fully recovered. Despite these challenges, Indian managed to stay afloat and expanded its lineup with the Indian Chief, which became another iconic model. These motorcycles were known for their strength and reliability, being a hit for law enforcement and military units. The 1920s brought further success with the release of the Indian Scout, a lightweight and fast bike that became an instant favorite. It was so popular that it became the longest-running model in the company's history. The company was able to benefit from the business boom of the 1920s. However, during this period, it lost its top position in the US motorcycle market to Harley-Davidson. Still, the introduction of the Scout and Chief models in the early 1920s became incredibly popular due to their reliability and strength, making them staples in both police and military service. If you could own any vintage Indian motorcycle, which one would it be? Comment on your dream bike below, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so we can keep bringing you the best content every week. As the world plunged into World War II, Indian once again turned its attention to supporting the war effort. From 1940 to 1945, the company dedicated nearly all of its production to supplying motorcycles for the military. Indian's bikes were used by the US Army and its allies, with the 500cc 741B and the 1200cc Chief being the most common models. Although these bikes were highly regarded, they couldn't surpass Harley-Davidson's WLA as the US military's bike of choice. Indian also produced experimental models during the war. The Model 841, with its 750cc motor and shaft drive, was designed to meet the needs of the military, but it failed to gain widespread approval due to its high cost and heavy design. Even the 500cc 741B, which had been produced in large numbers, wasn't selected by the US military for mass use. Despite these challenges, Indian's efforts did not go unnoticed. The French military made use of Indian motorcycles, and for World War II, Indian shipped around $24 million worth of motorcycles and parts to Allied forces. After the war, the company struggled to regain its footing. Although Indian motorcycles had proven their worth in battle, the post-war market was vastly different. With the Jeep becoming the preferred vehicle for the US Army, Indian's Model 841 was left behind. This marked the beginning of a slow decline for the company. The fall of Indian Motorcycle. In the early 1950s, the Indian Motorcycle Company was facing a lot of challenges. Despite being one of the most famous motorcycle brands in America, things started to go downhill. The first problem was poor management. After the company changed owners a few times, the new management struggled to make the right decisions. They couldn't keep up with their competition, especially Harley-Davidson, which had a stronger presence in the market. One of the biggest reasons for Indian's downfall was its financial troubles. The company had been losing money for years. They were spending too much on production and weren't making enough sales to cover it. Gradually, Indian was in serious debt, and this caused them to have trouble getting the parts and materials they needed to build their motorcycles. The quality of their motorcycles also started to decline. Indian was known for building solid, high-performance bikes, but by the time the 1950s rolled around, they weren't as reliable. Customers began to complain about mechanical issues, and this hurt the company's reputation. As a result, fewer people wanted to buy Indian motorcycles. Another problem was that they failed to adapt to new trends. Motorcycles were becoming faster and more modern, but Indian didn't keep up with these changes. Their motorcycles were seen as outdated compared to other brands, especially Harley-Davidson, which had started making motorcycles that were faster, more reliable, and stylish. Indian was slow to bring new designs to the market, and this made it harder for them to attract customers. By 1953, the Indian Motorcycle Company had stopped producing motorcycles altogether. The company tried to bounce back a few times in the following years, but it was never able to recover. Eventually, Indian went bankrupt and closed its doors for good in 1953. This marked the end of one of America's most iconic motorcycle brands. What do you think was the biggest mistake Indian Motorcycle made that led to its fall? Comment down below. A quick reminder, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. But sometimes, the end is just the beginning. Indian Motorcycle was about to write a brand new chapter in its legendary story, the rebirth of Indian Motorcycle. In 1963, industry leader Floyd Clymer purchased the rights to the Indian brand name. However, with the production of Indian motorcycles still not moving any further, his attempt to revive the iconic American brand took an unconventional turn. Clymer began importing British-made Royal Enfield and Velocette motorcycles and rebranding them with the Indian Motorcycle badge. While this kept the name alive, it wasn't the true comeback that fans had hoped for. This practice continued until Clymer's passing in 1970. Afterward, his attorney, Alan Newman, took over ownership. Newman shifted his focus to selling small motorcycles produced in Taiwan, but sales steeply declined, leading to yet another halt in operations by 1977. However, surprisingly and excitingly, in 1998, a new chapter began when a 9-company merger created the Indian Motorcycle Company of America, IMCA. A production facility in Gilroy, California was opened, and the first real attempt to bring back Indian motorcycles was launched. This new company wasn't the same as the original one, but it tried to bring back the legendary motorcycle that many loved. The company reintroduced modified versions of classic models like the Scout and Chief, sparking excitement among enthusiasts. One of the key figures in this rebirth was Barry Indian, who played a big role in designing the new bikes. The company's goal was clear: create motorcycles that were stylish, strong, and could compete with the giants of the motorcycle world, like Harley-Davidson. However, the revival was short-lived, as financial troubles forced IMCA to declare bankruptcy in 2003. A year later, in 2004, Stellican Limited, a private equity firm based in London, acquired Indian Motorcycle's assets and set up a new manufacturing facility in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Under their leadership, the company produced a decent number of motorcycles over 7 years, but the full potential of the brand still hadn't been realized. In 2011, the Indian Motorcycle brand was sold to Polaris Industries, marking the start of its most significant revival yet. After years of struggling and disappearing from the market, the iconic brand got a second chance thanks to some bold decisions. Polaris brought in new energy, resources, and a fresh vision to Indian Motorcycle. Under Polaris's leadership, Indian Motorcycles went through a massive transformation. The company redesigned its bikes again, paying attention to quality, performance, and technology. They created new models, like the Indian Chieftain and Indian Roadmaster, which were loved by motorcycle enthusiasts worldwide. This new line of motorcycles had the best of both worlds. They kept the classic Indian look while using the latest features. The company also invested heavily in improving its manufacturing and customer service, ensuring a better overall experience. By 2015, Indian Motorcycle was back on top, competing successfully against other big brands in the motorcycle industry. With strong sales, a loyal fan base, and a reputation for high-quality motorcycles, Indian Motorcycles had truly been reborn. However, the journey was far from easy. The legacy. Speaking of its journey, Indian Motorcycle Company isn't just an ordinary name, it's a symbol of American history. They were the first American-made motorcycle company, and for years, it was the best-known motorcycle brand in the world. Indian Motorcycle Company, through its rise, fall, and rebirth, showed the world that a legacy built on passion and innovation never truly fades away. Even today, the brand remains one of the most respected names in motorcycling, representing both tradition and modernity. Indian Motorcycles continue to be a favorite among riders who appreciate quality, heritage, and the thrill of the open road. And that wraps up the incredible story of Indian Motorcycles. From breaking speed records in the early 1900s to reclaiming its spot among the world's top motorcycle brands, Indian Motorcycles has truly stood the test of time. So what's your favorite part about this legendary journey? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing nostalgic stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.